This is nice. I mean, it's starting to show me that, you know, hey, you had a spike in the network traffic, and here's what caused it. Yeah, Rocky Linux came out, I think it was around the end of June. And so, yeah, I meant to look at it, and I just haven't. Well, actually, it came out July the 14th. Its planned end-of-life date is May the 31st, 2032. And if you're wondering how that compares to RHEL, RHEL's planned end-of-life date is May the 31st, 2026. However, Rocky says that if you need longer support, there are commercial vendors that will take that support date beyond 2032. So if that's not long enough for you, which is about 10 years, you can extend it further. So there's the same notice that Red Hat gave about CPU compatibility. Some of the older CPUs just won't work in this release because of the feature set that's being required. So, yeah. But the minimum requirements for the CPU is similar to Red Hat. It's AMD and Intel 64-bit version 2. ARM 64-bit, that, of course, is ARM 8A. And IBM Power Systems PPC 64LE is the spec they give, and 64-bit IBM Z, that's the Z390X architecture. Rocky is also offered as a cloud image. Currently, they support Amazon, both the U.S. West and U.S. East. I think they're currently working on AF South, but according to the table on their site, you can check and see if they've updated it since this video. But they do have support for x86 64 and ARM 64 as well. But Rocky Linux comes with kernel 514-70. Upgrading, if you're planning on upgrading from 8.6 to 9.0, while technically you could do that, but they don't recommend it either. Just like Red Hat, they don't recommend you performing the upgrade. They instead recommend doing a clean install of the environment. There's also OpenSCAP support, so if you have requirements for FIPS, or you have requirements for health services, or even in the Department of Defense, you have SCAP support for that. There's also the ones you might need for payment cards as well. So minimum installs will not include components needed to support OpenSCAP. So if you want that, you can use the DVD ISO to get the OpenSCAP requirements. So if you do install from the minimal ISO, then the SCAP support won't be there, but you need to have the DVD ISO in order to pick those up if you're interested. So XFS now supports the direct access operations. This is similar to Red Hat. Also, NFS introduces the eager write mount option to help reduce latency. That, again, is the same as Red Hat as well. Rocky Linux is built in-house. Now, this is different than Red Hat, using an in-house developed open-source cloud-native build called Peridot. And Peridot was used to build their x86 64, Arch 64, S390, and PowerPC 64 LE branches of the distribution. So, and that allows, I don't know if, I would imagine those are also being used to build AWS, but I'm not sure about that. I would guess it is. But it allows the user to build, enhance, and reproduce Rocky Linux from scratch independently. So that's one of the differentiations that Rocky is starting to do. Also in security, similar to Red Hat, SHA-1 is deprecated, except for HMAC, because HMAC does not have that issue. And SHA-1 can be incorporated with that to create a secure algorithm. So OpenSSL version 3.0.1 provides improved HTTPS client support, improved HTTPS client, but there's also support for utilities that are dependent upon OpenSSL to incorporate the version 3 changes. They've all been recompiled. So OpenSSH version 8.7 replaces the SCP and RCP with SFTP protocols. That should help with file naming. Again, that's the same as Red Hat. SE Linux is enhanced for a smaller footprint, faster execution. The root login is disabled by default, just like it is on RHEL. There's a FIPS module in Rocky Linux that prevents non-FIPS algorithm use, and they are Rocky is on the road to no pun. So Rocky Linux is on the road for FIPS compliance, and that's 140-3, which has to do with the cryptographic algorithm support. And that does pave the way to allow Rocky Linux to be installed in high security environments. So higher security, not the highest security, but higher security environments. Also, the integrity measurement architecture, that is of course part of the kernel, so it's available to Rocky Linux as well. You can look at the Red Hat documentation for how to enable it if you're interested in that. But that basically collects file hashes and saves them and helps identify tampering in your systems. Multipath Dcp Daemon can be used. This is the same as Red Hat. IP tables, NFT, and IPset are deprecated. So the IP tables, IP6 tables, EA tables, and ARP tables have all been deprecated along with it. So we're going to be going NF tables. So network scripts package has been removed, so you might want to look at a network manager to configure your network connections with this release. Web programming, this is all going to be the same as Red Hat. Git is 2.3.1, Apache Server 2.4.51, Nginx 1.20. As far as the tool chain is concerned, it's still version 11 on GCC, glib 2.3.4, binlibs 2.35.2. The GNOME debugger is 10.2 and Valgrind 3.18.1. SystemTap 4.6. PCP is 5.35 and Grafana 5.7.11. As far as the LLVM tool set, that's 13.0. Rust 1.58.1 and Go tool set 1.17.7. So it's pretty modern. Not it's not the very latest, but good enough. Same as Red Hat, QEMU now has built-in Clang, which allows the KVM hypervisor to be more advanced, offer more advanced security and debugging features. Virtual Trusted Platform Module and Vert iOS and cgroup version 2 are some of the enhancements there. Again, the cockpit web console is also improved for Rocky Linux, and that allows performance metrics pages that helps identify causes for high CPU, high memory use, and spikes in the network usage. So let's take a look at Rocky Linux and see how it compares with RHEL and some of the others that I've looked at. So let's just take a peek here and take a look. So the first thing we know, we think we know, is the kernel version is 5.14-0-70, which is right. I mean, that's what they said, and that's what we have. As far as how much disk space it is taking, it is 8.3 gig, and that is with GNOME 40 installed. So, there's not a whole lot that is installed on this yet. I don't have a lot of it out here yet, so All right, so let's see what else we got. Let's try HTOP. And I did have to install EPL in order to turn on the extra repos, so it's very similar to RHEL in that fashion. We have 958 meg, close to a gig, being used, and that is right after a restart. So I do have cockpit running, and so that obviously is going to add some to this as well, because I want to take a look at that with you, so we'll do that. Let's see. Let's try Glances. I had to install this as a pip. I had to install pip3 or Python 3-pip and then install Glances with it. It's not in the repo, so you'll have to find it in the Python repository. So we're showing total memory 1.19 gig right here in use. And okay. It's about right. The other thing I really want to look at is, before we do anything, is make sure do a clone on HTTPS, GitHub. Well, look, take a look and see what the Linus score is. I think I've slowed down my typing because I cut my finger this morning. So, anyway, let's see what we get here. Again, have done nothing as far as tuning or hardening. Nothing. Have done zip, 0. So this is as it is out of the box. I installed this as a server with GUI, just like I did with Red Hat. And, okay. 308, so this should be comparable. We got a hardening index of 67. There is a firewall running on this because Red Hat and Rocky both come up with one running. So, yeah, it is the RHEL firewall, so Firewall D. And let's see what we got here. So the core dump, that's pretty common. Configuration for PAM, minimum password, yeah, that's all the same. Drivers, protocols, harden SSH, right? Systat, banner, yeah, this is all the same. So not a big deal. It looks the same to me. Oops. Let's do a search on SSH. Okay. I want to see what the version is of that. I think it's info, if I remember right. I could be wrong. I guess we'll find out. Yeah, that's right. So it is 8.7p1, and that is the one that's been modified for the SCP and RCP is gone, been replaced with FTP. So, yeah, I just wanted to make sure that that was the case. And let's take a look at Cockpit. We'll just see what's in there. Let's see. There we go. A little shortcut. Okay, got administrative access turned on. This is the dashboard here at this level, and it shows that I am running under KMU, and yeah, that's because this is on a virtual machine. Let's see. Yeah, I don't have this hooked up to a domain. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, storage. It shows what my targets look like. It's showing traffic, so that's good. And you have packages, of course, you can install with this. I've talked about this before. Here's some of the services that you can enable or disable. So Audit D is up. That's interesting. Let's see if we can turn on anything else. See what kind of trouble we can get into. Quite a bit. Now it knows that I've installed this. So those are appearing now. It's not running, but this is a really nice overview to the system to show you what is going on. Let's see, applications, image builder, Now this is for OS images, virtual machines, pod containers, and the subscription manager, of course, doesn't mean anything to RHEL because there is no subscription to RHEL. Collect diagnostics, kernel dump, configuration for SE Linux, checking for software updates, and terminal. Is there a performance? I don't see anything. Overview contains performance. Oh, there we go. All right, so I can look at the CPU, can see what services are taking up the CPU, so that's good. I can also look at memory and see what things are eating up the memory in the system. I can look at the disk and see which one of the drives is active, and the same here. So install PCP. Let's see if this gives me additional information. Just waiting for it to complete. Okay. And it was in the overview, so it's right here. PM logger is not running. Okay, let's turn it on. There we go. So obviously this is going to take time to collect, but there isn't anything earlier. So yeah, I think I kind of played around with this on one of the earlier ones, so this is really kind of nice that there's all of this data that's available to you. This tool just keeps getting better and better with time. And then, of course, you have a terminal window here as well. So because of that, yeah, be careful. Yeah, be careful what you expose this to. You don't want to expose this to the outside of your network, obviously. There we go. Now we're starting to get some information here. There's a network spike because I created it when I was installing the packages, and so this is nice. I mean, it's starting to show me that, hey, you had a spike in the network traffic, and here's what caused it. So this is really nice. We'll take a look at the benchmarks for the system next. Okay, let's take a look at the benchmark results for RHEL. We're going to compare this one against Debian 11, RHEL 9, Artemis, and Ubuntu 2204. So let's just see how things kind of shake out here a little bit. And we have two fast systems, but not quite sure which ones they are. I didn't pay any attention to the color codes. But yeah, we've got, looks like a pretty good mix of performance numbers in here. I am starting to add Botan and FIO, but FIO continues to give me problems on at least using it the way I am. So, yeah. So anyway, we have, the compile bench still doesn't work. Doesn't seem to want to do I/O. Yeah, it runs, but it doesn't produce any results. So in the postmark, we have RHEL and RHEL running pretty good. RHEL is, of course, a little bit faster in this benchmark. And then RAM speed, looks like RHEL is a little quicker than RHEL, but they're all pretty close. Same thing with the copy integer on RAM speed. And the scale speed, RHEL is coming up quicker. But like I said, it's not it's not a huge amount of difference between the two. They're very close. Very close, in fact. And we'll look and see what happens when we get down to the floating point, see if that changes things up. This looks pretty even as far as, you know, which one is winning in each one of the categories. So floating point, here we go. So looks like it's about the same distribution, with Ubuntu falling back just a little bit here. Yeah. Same with the triad, same with the average on the floating point. So I mean, RHEL won this clearly, but it's, like I said, it's not by much. That could be down in the noise. As far as the stream is concerned, Rocky, I would say, had a very good showing here, but RHEL still looks like they won that one. They're so close, though. All of these are really close, like the scale. 955, looks like RHEL edged out slightly on that one, and then the add 23,963, 24,100. Yeah, they're really all running pretty close together. Artemis really went down on the cache read, but the rest of them are they're all hanging about the same place. Yeah, it looks like Rocky won that one on the cache bench, and Debian won on the cache bench read modify write. And OpenSSL, Rocky's running a little bit better. Now, some of these others are back because I don't have AES turned on. So Rocky and RHEL are the first two distributions that I have turned AES on. So those are going to do better on AES style benchmarks. So yeah, I'll get to it. I just haven't caught up. It takes a while to run these. So let's see. Yeah, for that last one, looks like RHEL and PHP RHEL again. Hang on. All right. So we have. We don't have a clean. Well, we did. It was at the top. So I thought I did a client count of 6, but I keep screwing that up, I think. Botan is something I'm playing with. I'm trying to see if this, I mean, clearly you can see the AES makes a huge difference if it's on. Yeah, I mean, it is huge. That some of them it doesn't need it, but those were AES, cryptographic, so they're really gonna improve in performance. Okay, so I mean, RHEL is probably going to be the overall winner here, and yes. But as you can see, Rocky is not that far out, and Debian's performance is kind of surprising. Rocky 9 on the geometric mean of all tests came out on top. Massive CPU Debian is 1054. Yeah, so these are all really close though. 5.7, 5.5, 5.2. Any of these three would be great as a file server. Single threaded. Now, if I'd put Clear Linux in here, yeah, this would be a completely different story. Clear Linux would have dominated this. So clearly, Red Hat did very well most of the tests, but you know it's slanted basically by FIO. Yeah. So, okay. That's the result. It is first place RHEL, second place Debian, third place Rocky. But like I said, all those are really close together. Ubuntu does not do as well as I would have thought it would. And I'm not sure what's going on there. But yeah, these both are using the same, these two, Rocky and RHEL are using the exact same kernel. Debian, of course, is using 5.10, but it might have some backports in it. You never know. Kind of one of my final thoughts on this. For the first time, I mean, there's link time optimization is enabled by default, just like it was for Red Hat. But I think the look and feel of Rocky Linux is excellent. I think it is, if you're turning on the GUI, you'll find it's GNOME 40. That will be under the architecture for you to use. So in most of the areas, it's either a little bit faster than RHEL or just a little bit slower than RHEL. I mean, there's Debian comes in and peaks in there as well, but there's very little difference between those three. I also looked at Ubuntu as well and Artemis, and those just don't do as well for some reason in the benchmarks that I'm showing. So. But, you know, hey, this is, but I think Rocky's is excellent performance. I think it's doing very well. It looks like it's in third place, but like I said, the difference between first and third is a fraction. Yeah, it's so close, it's ridiculous. So they are offering multi-architecture support, and of course, if you've noticed since 8.6 to 9.0, they have expanded their offerings to include all of the same architectures that are supported by Red Hat. So kudos to the team. They're really doing, I think, a great job. And the fact that they are spending the money to get FIPS compliance, again, impressive. Very impressive. I have not tested all of the alternatives to CentOS yet. So I want to reserve my overall comments as to which one I recommend until I have done that. It would not be fair to just say, oh, I think you should do this without having looked at all of them. So, yeah, I will be doing that soon. So I hope you enjoyed this look at Rocky Linux 9. There's, they have come a long way. I mean, it's hard to believe it's only been a year since they actually started all this. I mean, it's pretty amazing how far they've actually come. And the amount of work that the team has placed into this, I just shake my head. I just can't believe they've done this much. So I hope you enjoyed this video today. And if you did, please like and subscribe to the channel. And hope to see you again in the next one. Bye for now.